It's January 2014, more than 3 years after taking early retirement as a secondary math teacher in the state of California. I call this videotaped segment AVE for This is the Avenue I Must Take. A is for apology, V is for vision, and E is for errata. 6 years ago, I possessed a 1974 video called The World of Buckminster Fuller. Divorce took that video out of my library. As we finally have the right balance of products on our website, I wanted to include an endorsement of my ideas using a short clip from that documentary. In my video and on my poster, I've made the claim that Fuller had a firm conviction that every star does the jitterbug. There is no obvious instance of Fuller saying this. I apologize for not checking my facts better. A couple of days ago, I found that clip on the internet, and that is not precisely what is said. At the end of this clarification, I will play the clip like an errata sheet in a math book. I have a vision, something that might make it into psychology books. I was a 19-year-old political science major at UCLA when I had an intriguing dream. In this dream, a long arm handed me a diamond-shaped piece of glass. It looked like this. I then turned in this dream to look out an unfamiliar bay window and saw a spherical craft skirting across the sky. It had a tail or rod hanging from it. It looked something like the old-fashioned floats in toilet tanks, something like this. Two years later, still studying poli-sci, another peculiar dream shattered reality as I then knew it. I saw a ball of sunlight, and there were two light rays pointed at each other. Under each light ray were pluses and minuses in an alternating way. Plus, minus, minus, plus. The expression written under the ball of light was curious. Why is there a 1? Why isn't it E cubed? Are there 3 types of energy being expressed? Why isn't it M squared? Are there 2 types of mass being expressed? Does this have any meaning for fusion, or is it an expression of how the sun works? Or was it simply a mirage that led somewhere else? I went to the library and I picked up a book with a lot of E's and M's in it and took it home. Quantum Electronics by John R. Pierce. There in the introduction of the book is the mention of a fictional story written in 1860, a story called The Diamond Lens. While the story is about peering down into the inside of matter, it's rather dark, as if rivaling Edgar Allan Poe. Then I found a second story called How I Overcame My Gravity, published posthumously in 1865, again by the same author as The Diamond Lens, James O'Brien. O'Brien was a Northern cavalry officer that was shot and later died from his wounds during the Civil War. In this second story, there is a description of how a spherical hovercraft with a long iron tail can be constructed and launched. At the start of the second story, there are allusions to the hollow planet theory, not just that, quote, Newton's gravitational theory is rotten to the core, but a second allusion that states, even now I think I hit the white when I enunciated my grand principle of progression by means of atmospheric inclined planes. Within a few days, I'd found that there are 9 regular polyhedra, 5 convex and 4 concave, and this nicely corresponded with the 5 terrestrial and 4 gaseous planets. After taking a degree in political science, I returned to the local junior college and took all the math and science they had. I wanted to take a second degree in engineering, but I had no money, so I became a math teacher. After a couple of years teaching, I quit pursuing these baffling ideas. I couldn't figure out whether they'd lead to good or bad, and I was no saint, so they could probably lead to bad. For more than 2 decades, I've been silent about what happened to me. Then about 7 years ago, Universe gave me the thumbs up. The ideas are good, and I must return to them again. Imagine me. I potentially have an underlying design for the 9 planets, but I have no idea about the construction for the sun. I should have watched the Bucky video a second time, but I got called to dinner. In my mind, Bucky told me something about the construction of the sun. Think about it for a moment. Einstein had a problem with quantum entanglement. He insisted that there must be a mechanism that orchestrated it. At this time, I will not redo the CD and correct my error. I'm simply out of money. Until I sell the products that I have already created, sculptures, posters, and DVDs, I cannot enlist the technical help of others to redo things. If you are beckoned by these ideas, I ask for your help simply by purchasing the items that I've already created and stockpiled. If I sold every item that I've stocked, I might be able to buy a 3D printer that prints plastic models in color. There will be no more porcelain-like models once they're gone. I sold that printer to raise money. Through all of this, I've tried to enlist the help of the Templeton Foundation, the Buckminster Fuller Institute, and Thrive. I've finally laid all my cards on the table. Perhaps one of these organizations will rethink their support. AVE. This is my avenue. I am sorry to the people at BFI. A. I've shared my vision. V. Before I share the corrections or the errata sheet, E, well, I just hope that there's a place in your mind to join me on this road.
Remembering then our 6 units of vector edge give us 1 unit of quantum, I'm going to take 1 unit of quantum out of the icosahedron, which has the 30 edges, or 5 units of quantum in. I'm going to take one and just leave it 4 of them in. So what I have to do is to go around taking out 1 bar like that. Then I'm going to have to take out another bar over here. And I come around and take out another bar over here. I go into the other hemisphere, opposite that triangle. I've taken out 3 so far, and I want to leave this way, so I now take one out here. I take this one out here. That's 5. Need 1 more to be removed, and here it is. So here we now have what they call the vector equilibrium with 8 triangles and 6 squares. I'm going to articulate it. I'm going to take this top triangle, and it must be lowered towards the triangle on the table, and the triangle on the table mustn't twist, and the triangle up here mustn't. Just simply lower towards it. So as I start to do that, here we suddenly become the icosahedron stage. Then I keep lowering. The point still stays out towards you, and lower, suddenly becomes the octahedron. So we see a complete transformation from the vector equilibrium through the icosahedron down to the octahedronal condition. Now supposing, and we see all the vectors have been doubled up, all the edges have been doubled up, so this is very powerful. Now supposing this were a force, if I pull on it here, this forces it to contract. Supposing this were revolving in space, a whole group of stars, and another great star group here made a mass attraction and simply retarded this thing, then it would force it to contract. Now supposing this contraction, then the direction I see it coming around towards me like this, now this would make this top suddenly twist, torque, and plunge through in this manner to become the tetrahedron. So now we've gone through a great, complete set transformation from vector equilibrium through icosahedron, through octahedron, down to the tetrahedron, or the 3 basic structural systems in the universe. And now we see all of the vectors are 4-fold. This is the way we go, for instance, from carbon, which is very relatively lightweight and soft, down to very hard diamond. by getting into a doubling up of the vectors of the edges. Now we'll unwind again, up we come, back again to our friend the vector equilibrium, and we find that this pumps, sometimes it's called the jitterbug, pumping, 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 but the center is not twisting. This point always stays towards you, so we have the whole system is contracting symmetrically. All 12 points approach a common center at a symmetrical rate. We have a very extraordinary matter in engineering here. Supposing then you would have a pressure on the roof of your building, you're used to the idea of the building flattening. But if the pressure on the top of the building here means that the whole building contracts symmetrically. The vector equilibrium contains the whole phenomenology of structure of universe. And it's 12 vertices here. If we put one to the center, it's called vector equilibrium because it consists of 4 hexagons. You see a hexagon plane here at the center, another hexagon plane here, another hexagonal plane here, and a fourth one here. And each one of those has 6 radii. So the 6 radii, the 12 radii to these 12 points are equal in value to the chords, because you look at a hexagon, it has 6 edges and 6 radii. They're equal value, so the tendency to explode and the tendency to contract are exactly balanced. That's why it's called the vector equilibrium. And they represent the closest packing of spheres around one sphere. A stratosphere here, and then 12 spheres around it. So this represents the basis of all atomic packings and so forth, and all the oscillations and wave phenomena that are articulated in our electromagnetic world.